This is your World War III Day X update, and this one I am really doing on the fly. At the time of making this video, the Golan Heights, also known as the occupied Golan Heights by some, of course that is a hotly contested issue, as many of you know, in northern Israel or southern Syria, however you want to look at it, is currently under bombardment by Hezbollah rockets. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because Rafi Farber, a financial analyst who's a friend of the channel, actually lives in a house that was hit by some of this shrapnel. So we're wishing him the best of luck in that situation. Despite our geopolitical differences, me and Rafi certainly agree that our financial paradigm as it stands is destined to failure, and we share similar strategies on how you can mitigate those risks. Now, what I really want to talk about today is, of course, the regional hostilities that are about to flare up in a massive way in the Middle East, because Anthony Blinken went home with his tail between his legs. He did his expected, obligatory, good cop PR stunt to make it look as though the United States was pressuring the Israelis, while all the while continuously sending them the weapons they need to embolden them to fight a massive regional war to keep Netanyahu in power. Anyways, we know that that situation is going to flare up. We've told you that the supposed ceasefire negotiations are just a stalling tactic, total bullshit to get the major conflict stalled until the U.S. Navy can get to the region in order to back up the Israelis when this thing really pops off, and that it will. What I want to talk about primarily today is this nuclear employment guidance. This was a highly classified nuclear strategic plan that was cooked up by the Biden administration, essentially how they're going to fight a nuclear war against North Korea, China, and Russia. A nuclear war on 3 fronts. Now, this document apparently was so classified that it only exists in paper format, and there was only a few copies of it ever made, so we've been told. Now, I don't know if this is the case with all top secret documents, and they self-destruct like in the movies after they are read. I don't know if it's the case with everything, so maybe that is just media alarmism and sensationalism, but it appears as though that this is the real deal, that the United States are working on a secret plan, or at least that is what they want their adversaries to think on how to win a nuclear war against the Russians, Chinese, and North Koreans. Now, what do I really think about this? The timing is everything. The fact that this has been leaked to the press, and of course, the Biden administration, let's just face it, this has nothing to do with Joe Biden. This is deep state stuff. And at times like these, people should really be thankful there is a deep state, if you know what I mean. Because when it comes to continuity of government, man, I mean, let's just face it, you don't want a lot of these people who claim to be the ones representing us actually making the decisions, let's face it. So you want people who are technicians, people who are going to, act empirically and as scientifically as possible in those types of situations, not on the basis of appeasing some political party. You want somebody who's going to make the best, most appropriate decision. And we don't know the details of what this was. We just know the usual overgeneralized rhetoric, essentially that they're preparing for this new strategic partnership between Russia and China. The Russians and the Chinese have not called it militarily bound, in the sense that, if China gets nuked, Russia is going to start nuking whoever nuked China. But that's essentially what it means, okay? And so the Americans are working on some top secret things, so they want us to believe, and this could just be for public consumption, this could be for our adversaries' consumption. They may want to signal and maintain that strategic ambiguous posture for our adversaries to make them think that we're more powerful than we actually are, without telegraphing the fact that we violated the treaties. That could be what this is about. Because what they're essentially saying is that the Chinese are starting to proliferate nuclear weapons. In order for the Americans to maintain nuclear parity or maintain nuclear dominance, strategic dominance, they need to build more nuclear weapons. They need to have enough nuclear weapons not only to rival the Russians, which they don't. The Russians have a lot more, but of course it's quality versus quantity issue. Many would say that the Russian deployment systems now are even better quality than the Americans. They have a multitude of deployment systems that don't exist, at least so we know. But I'm pretty sure that if we had those deployment systems, we would make it known, because that's the whole point of strategic deterrence, unless you were planning on doing a preemptive strike and you were pretending to be weaker than you were, okay? So what it starts to look like then is that they're trying to telegraph to the Chinese and the Russians that, hey, we have a plan, and if you try anything, we're going to execute this plan. Now, this is very timely because there's a nasty-ass moth flying around. It's going to get the hat right away. That's why I love having a hat on the homestead, because it's the ultimate bug killer. This timing is very essential, because right now, not only is Russia being invaded by Ukraine, there are American private military contractors documented as being on the ground in Russia. And they are accompanied by Western media, CNN, and Ukrainian media. Okay, I want you to think about that. American private contractors, like Blackwater type stuff, wearing Ukrainian military fatigues, are currently invading Russia with no real end in sight. In fact, Russia has now dug trenches outside of the Kursk nuclear power plant. They're getting ready to fight a war around a nuclear power plant. They're expecting that the Ukrainians are going to do a nuclear provocation. So the timing for this media release, because we didn't get any other details about this top secret classified document other than that it exists, okay? And the timing for that is quite significant, because they're trying to communicate to somebody that somebody in the Russian government and the Chinese and North Korean and Iranian governments, that maybe we have a plan, maybe we have a secret weapon, maybe we've continued nuclear proliferation and violated all the treaties, like you said, we have all this time. And let's not forget about that space-based warfare stuff that's been going on, where the Russians accuse us of having space weapons. If you hear some crazy noises in the background, we got some farm cats. They're kittens, and they're tearing the garage up downstairs. So you might hear some crazy shit right away. But anyways, so right now, Vladimir Putin is doing this very brazen tour. His itinerary is unique for him in the last 2 years, in that he's went and visited Azerbaijan to make sure that they're on board with whatever shit is about to go down in the Middle East. Now he's in Chechnya, the first time he's been there since 2011. Okay, that's like, what, 13, 14 years? And he gave them a pep talk, all of Kadyrov's generals, which really started to take the form of, we're getting ready to mobilize for a big aero offensive. Okay, I think what Putin is hoping from this whole Kursk offensive is that he is going to be able to mobilize his country for war. I think that he now has the backing that he needs of the Russian people to maintain his popularity level without inciting those more radical factions that might trigger civil unrest within the country. Without rocking the boat too much, per se, he could now declare war against Ukraine, and most people would be fine with it. You might think that just because you have a supposed 75% approval rate, that the chances of the government collapsing are slim to none. But the thing that you need to realize about governments like that, while it might even be true that there is an 80% approval rating, that means that the people who oppose the government need to be all the more radical in their methods in order to be a counterbalance to the existing government. So whereas here in the West, where it's always a dead heat right to the finish, they always want people, like this whole circus that's going on, the DNC and the RNCs. I don't even pay attention to it. It's just a big distraction. The ship is sinking. 35 trillion in debt. World War III is on the horizon. It doesn't matter who's at the helm. I'm sorry to tell you that. It's just a matter of, what play we're going to do. It's like a football game. We got the ball and, you pick your quarterback. But either way, it's still a war, right? So anyways, I think what is happening now, I totally lost my train of thought. I hate when I do that. I go on these tangents. I'm sure it'll come back to me at some point. I'm feeling pretty squirrel-brained in here. And pardon the acoustics, but this is a part of the property that I've yet to furnish. So it's just bare walls. What was I talking about? What the hell was I talking about? Come on, guys. Tell me what I was talking about in the comment section below. I'm sure it'll come back to me. So that's what we got going on right now. Oh, yes. The radicalization of people who have no other choice but physical armed revolt. When you I'm sure there's a quote about it somewhere, but I'm sure it was some American revolutionary quote or something to that effect. But when you have a government which has such high popularity levels, the only method that the minority has in that situation is violent revolt. So despite the fact that Putin has such a high approval rating, is that the kitties? Come here. Come here. He has to play it very safe. I'm going to show you guys these cats if they come over here. Come on. Holy shit, they're all up here. There's 4 of them. Mice killers. You need mice killers on a homestead. Get animals, cats, dogs, especially cats because they can feed themselves. Our dog feeds itself, the new one that we got. Come on. Anyways, one of them might meander over here. I know some of you guys like cats, some of you hate them. So this is what we got going down. Everything is getting ready to blow. It seems as though there is high-level coordination between the various axes. So you have the Russian axis, the Chinese, and the Russian axis consists of, Chechen, Belarus, and all that. China, which North Korea maybe comes up under that umbrella, and what's going on in the Middle East. The Iranian axis is most certainly laying dormant right now, and I think that they're getting ready to do a massive retaliatory strike. In fact, the Houthis have said as much. According to the Wall Street Journal, in fact, it's been leaked, and it should come as no surprise, that the Houthis, as well as many other groups throughout the region, are getting ready to do a very large, coordinated attack against U.S. and Israeli assets. And so the Houthis have already essentially declared war against the U.S. government. The Houthis are an arm of the Iranian axis. That's who they're armed by. So essentially, they've already declared war. They've been already firing quite frequently against American warships. Look like the cats are gone, so we'll have to save that for another video. But you also have Lebanon, who's been lying in wait. Very, very quiet, trying to exhaust the Iron Dome system. I think that's what they're trying to do. We're seeing some attacks deep into Lebanon by the Israeli forces, constant bombardments of ammo depots, of which many of these are likely not above ground, so these are probably supply vehicles potentially. So we know that these guys are trained to operate in the tunnels, and so a lot of their weapons and ammunitions are going to be underground. So when you see these big explosions of supposed ammo depots, there's a very good chance that these are just supply drops convoys potentially, but there could be some above ground stuff as well. But these guys fight from the tunnels, and that's why they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, while the losses have been disproportionate, favoring the Israelis in the war with Lebanon, Lebanon has yet to fully really unleash. And I think it appears as though they're testing the Israeli defenses. However, they continue to target Israeli settlements, which arguably are civilians. From their perspective, they might see them as hostiles because they view the Golan Heights as being occupied, okay? So from their point of view, they might see them as militants, even though I guess technically they're civilians, but many of them may be armed, many of them may be military reservists, etc. Oh, catch one. There we go. There's one. There's one of them. So you got to get yourself the cheapest rodent deterrent on the homestead right here. And these guys are aggressive and they're ready to fight. And you got to get a farm cat. There's something about a farm cat that, you know, you can, I guess any cat will catch a bird or a mouse, but farm cats, I just find they're a lot more unruly. Anyways, what was I talking about there? You know, you can't have the sweet without the sour, they say, right? So we gotta try to keep our sanity somehow. Cute little kitties help that out a little bit. So I think the Day X attack is coming. I think that we're going to see a coordinated strike very soon. The bullshit peace talks are over. Hamas rejected them. Officially they've rejected them. So it's just a matter of acknowledging that, and it's just a matter of who's going to pull the trigger first. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. I think that Hezbollah knows that right when they go for Israel, right when they try to take out a limb or, attack them in a way which is significant, they know that that's going to delineate the official beginning of the war. And when that happens, they're going to get bombed to smithereens. So I think what they're going for is maybe not a decapitation strike, but they want to make that first blow, that first real blow count. And if you're the axis of resistance, you know war is imminent. You know it's inevitable. You know that the Americans are bogged down in Kursk, where they're literally fighting a war against Russia. And you know that the Chinese could make their move any moment. And quite frankly, if you're Xi Jinping and you're looking at this situation, you're thinking to yourself, man, this might be the best opportunity that we have, especially if the USA goes for Iran, which is, of course, one of the primary suppliers of crude of oil to China. China has every incentive then to attack Taiwan at that point in time, because, of course, this means that the Americans are going to have to redirect much of their efforts into the Pacific, which is going to take attention away from Iran. So there's no way, I cannot foresee how we're going to be able to sustainably fight a three-front war from the sea. Like, it just makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, Poland, how long are they going to hold out, right? That's who's being built up next to be the next sacrificial lamb. Who do you got? You got Jordan, you got Saudi Arabia, who's kind of on the fence. You got Egypt, I guess, who doesn't really have a whole lot of fighting experience. You have, Jesus, these guys are going crazy back here. So it's not going to work out well, especially if the Axis get wise and they just coordinate their attacks. And we better hope that there is no high-level coordination happening between all of these countries that are adversarial to the West. Because if there is, I think we're screwed. I think we are screwed. And I think this is why, in a panic, there's this press release about this new nuclear strategy on how they're going to fight a nuclear war. If we're talking about a coordinated attack, it could be very asymmetrical. It could even include biological threats. The Chinese are currently running a national exercise that simulates an outbreak of pneumonia once again. So this is obviously a carryover from the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, but they're continuing with these drills because they know that someday biological warfare may be the favorable approach, because at the end of the day, maybe it's better than full-blown nuclear disaster, even if our side gets hit as well. So all indicators suggest that day X is definitely approaching. It's definitely en route. The price of gold bears that out. The price of oil can be manipulated a lot easier than the price of gold. So when I'm looking at what's going down in the world, I'm looking at that skyrocketing price of gold, and it seems to be holding steady above 2,500 bucks. Of course, every time we say that, it goes down a bit, but you know, gold is one of those things that's been around since the beginning of civilization, and it ain't going anywhere. I'm going to be doing another video later today. I just wanted to, things are moving so fast now that were I to talk about this tomorrow would be irrelevant. But those are just some thoughts on the matter for you guys today. I got to go see what sort of damage these cats have been causing in the lower levels here. Thanks for watching, my friends. Take care. Stay safe. Keep on prepping. Day X is coming. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.